Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Abrar, and today I am going to talk about relationship of organisms with one another and with the environment. That is ecology. So before starting the lecture, let me remind you, please subscribe my channel and share it with other students. So let's start. So as I told you that today we are going to talk about ecology. This is the definition of ecology. What is ecology? That it is the relationship of organisms with one another and their relationship with the environment. That how the different organisms they interact with each other and how these organisms they interact with the environment and how this environment it affects the organisms and the way the organisms affect the environment. So this interaction of the organisms with one another and with the environment, this is studied under ecology, right? Now, keeping first of all, we must keep in mind that the principal source of energy in an ecosystem is sun. Sun is the principal source of energy. It is the sun which is distributing a tremendous amount of solar energy to the ecosystem, to the world, to the earth. And this solar energy from the sun is being stored, is being trapped through the process of photosynthesis by the green plants. It means that we can say that whole of the life on earth is dependent on photosynthesis, and sun is the principal source of energy. And let me tell you that what is ecosystem? So ecosystem is when all the organisms, when all the living environment along with the non-living environment, along with the soil, along with the temperature and the weather conditions, humidity, amount of rainfall, biotic factor as well as the abiotic factor, all the type of plants and animals, and along with the non-biotic factors, non-living factors, for example, temperature and humidity and rainfall and the amount of sunshine and the length of the days and nights and the wind and the speed of the wind, rivers, oceans, all the things they make the ecosystem. So now this ecosystem is dependent on photosynthesis. And how this photosynthesis is taking place? Through the sun. So sun is the principal source of energy. Now let me introduce you that what is the food chain. The food chain is that when the energy it flows from one trophic level to another, from one trophic level. For example, what is trophic level? Producers. So the first step, the first stage of the energy flow is producers, because these are the producers, these are the green plants. Producers are green plants, trees, crops. All of these trees, all of the crops, all of the forests, the whatever the green plants are there in the nature, all of them are trapping the sunlight, a tremendous amount of sunlight. And these producers are producing millions of tons of food every day, millions of tons of wheat, millions of tons of rice and cereals and fruits and vegetables for humans, which we are consuming. And not only for humans, but for all the animal kingdom. Millions and trillions of tons of food every day. So how this process is taking place? Through photosynthesis. and sun is the principal source of energy. And the producers are the first level of uh, first trophic level in this energy flow. And now this energy is then transferred to the primary consumers. And the primary consumers are herbivores. Herbivores like goat, sheep, cows, all the grazing animals, those who are dependent on the plants for their food, for their energy requirement. So these are primary consumers. And then the energy, it transfers from the primary consumers to the secondary consumers. And the secondary consumers are carnivores. Carnivores, meat eaters, like for instance lions, tigers, foxes, wolves, etc. Cats even, right? So all of these. And then from secondary consumers, then the energy moves to the next trophic level, that is tertiary consumers. For instance, they can be those animals which are hunting even these ones. For instance, let me tell you that the green plants, they are eaten by uh, suppose rats, and these rats are the primary consumers. These are herbivores. Now these rats are hunted by secondary consumers. For example, they are hunted by snakes. So snakes, which are the carnivores, they are secondary consumers. And now from this, the snakes are hunted by tertiary consumers. For example, hawks, eagles, they hunt snakes. So uh, they are also carnivores, and they are considered tertiary consumers because they are the next level of next trophic level. And ultimately, either these are the plants, either these are the trees, or these are herbivores, or these are carnivores. They are secondary consumers or they are tertiary consumers. Ultimately, their bodies, when they die, or when their waste products are released, so they are decomposed by decomposers, by fungi, by bacteria, by decomposers. So the last trophic level of the food chain is decomposers. Now, we must keep in mind that the transfer of energy takes place from one trophic level to another. And when the energy is transferring, is shifting from one trophic level to the next trophic level, and then to the next, and then to the next. So a large amount, even more than 90% of the energy, this is wasted in the environment. So when the green plants, they are respiring, through respiration, a large amount of energy is wasted in the environment. Then when the primary consumers, especially the primary consumers, when they are herbivores, they are consuming these plants. So more than 90% of the energy will be wasted to the environment when they are respiring. When a sheep, when a cow, when a goat is feeding the animal, is feeding the plants, but this animal is also moving throughout its life, is running, is uh, respiring. So large amount of energy is wasted in the environment, and only very few percent, less than 10%, very less percent of the energy is consumed to the next trophic level. And then this one, when the secondary consumers, which are carnivores, they will waste a large amount, more than 90% or even 95% of the energy. They will transfer it, they will waste it to the environment through respiration and through movement, etc. And then here, so it means a very less amount, a very less percentage of the energy is transferred to the next trophic level, and then to the next trophic level. And ultimately, all of the energy is wasted in the environment. So remember that energy flows in a non-cyclic manner. It is trapped by the green plants through the process of photosynthesis. Now I am explaining through the diagram. It is trapped through the process of photosynthesis, and these are the producers which are trapping and which are storing this solar energy through the process of photosynthesis. And then the herbivores are through feeding, they are storing and consuming and using this energy, and this energy is now stored in their body, and much of the energy is released through the process of respiration, is wasted through the process of respiration, but some of the energy is stored in the animal body. And now when these animals or their products, for example milk, or if they are chickens or eggs, they are eaten by us, so then we consume this energy. And when these animals, they are eaten, their meat is eaten, so by humans or by carnivores, so then the energy transfers to the next trophic level of secondary consumers, and then tertiary consumers, and then ultimately decomposers. In this way energy flows. So now I will talk about pyramid of biomass and pyramid of numbers. If I am talking about the food chain, so in the food chain, whenever we draw the pyramid of biomass, so it is always broader at the base and it is narrower at the top. Pyramid of biomass is always like this. Similarly, the pyramid of energy, whenever you will draw the pyramid of energy for any food chain, it will be broader at the base and then it will get narrower and narrower at the top with the shifting of the move with the transfer of the next trophic level. When we will move from one trophic level to the next, so the pyramid will get narrower. It will get narrower. So I am talking about pyramid of biomass and pyramid of energy. Pyramid of biomass and pyramid of energy is always like this, broader at the base and narrower at the top. However, the pyramid of number can be different. It can be a typical pyramid which is broader at the base and narrower at the top, or it can be first narrower at the base and then it can be broader. It depends upon the type of the food chain. For instance, if there is one tree, so there is only one tree, but on that one tree there are 1000 aphids, the small insects which are feeding on that one tree. So the tree is one, but when we move to the next trophic level, and in terms of numbers, so the aphids are 1000 on one tree. So it is first narrower at the base and then it got broader, and then once again it got narrower. When we will talk about that the aphids, when they are hunted by the small birds, now 1000 aphids, they are eaten by suppose 5 birds, which are depending, those 5 birds are depending on those 1000 aphids. So once again the pyramid of number got narrower. First narrow, then broad, then narrow. So the pyramid of number can change, can vary. Now I will talk about population and community. Population is, we can define population, that number of individuals of the same species which are living in an area, in an environment. This is called population. For example, if I am talking about the population of Lahore, for example, a city, so it means that we are talking about the number of human beings living in Lahore, number of human beings which is a species, human species. So it means that the population is the number of individuals of the same species living in an area. Or if I am talking about the population of New York, It means that the number of individuals, number of human beings living in New York City. Once again, we are talking about one particular species. So this is the concept of population. But in contrary to population, community is different. Community is when the different populations of the different species of different animals and humans and birds and insects, all of the and herbivores or carnivores, all of the animals, all of the species which are living in a particular environment or in an ecosystem, then they form community. Then they form community. And community is the different kind of living organisms, the different species of living organisms living in an ecosystem, they form community. And if we include the physical environment, the non-living factor as well, the temperature, the soil, the topography, and the amount of rainfall, and all the other climatic factors, so then it becomes an ecosystem. Now I will talk about, and last thing is I will talk about biodiversity. What is biodiversity? That the different type of organisms, the different there is a variation, there is a long range of animals and plants and species, different type of species, different type of insect, different type of flowers, various types of plants. So if they are present in an environment, it means that there is biodiversity, there is diversity in terms of the living environment, in terms of the animals and the plants. This is biodiversity. Now briefly I will explain the carbon cycle through this diagram. Suppose as I told you that sun is the principal source of energy. So mm, through the process of photosynthesis, the green plants are absorbing, uh, are, are trapping the sunlight, and they are absorbing carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is becoming the part of carbon cycle. Carbon dioxide is being used through the process of photosynthesis. For example, this one, if I'm writing the equation for photosynthesis, carbon dioxide plus water, it is forming C6H12O6, which is food. So here the carbon is being fixed and the byproduct is oxygen. So suppose I am balancing the equation as well. So in this way, the carbon becomes the part of the plant's body in the form of food. Now this carbon will be eaten by because now the carbon becomes organic food. Now this organic food is being eaten and being grazed by the herbivores. So now the carbon will become the part of animal's body. And when the animals will respire, so once again they will return the carbon through carbon dioxide, they will return it to the environment. Now when these animals are eaten by humans or by their so then the carbon will become part of our body, primary consumers and secondary consumers. And when we will respire, so we will return this carbon in the form of carbon dioxide to the environment. Similarly, if the birds, they are also feeding and they are utilizing the food, so the carbon is also becoming the part of this bird. And when this bird will respire, so carbon dioxide will be returned to the environment. So this is carbon cycle. And when the carbon, when for example, the tree is cut down, or the fossil fuels, the old trees, thousands of and the millions of years ago, now they become the fossil fuel. So the carbon is stored in their stems and in the coal, in the form of coal, or in the form of petroleum, or in the form of natural gas. Now when this fossil fuel is burnt, now carbon dioxide through combustion is returned to the environment. So first the carbon becomes the part of the body through the process of photosynthesis, maybe now or maybe millions of years ago. Now the carbon was stored, and when we burn the fossil fuels, so carbon dioxide is returned to the environment. And I'm also talking about the decomposition. So when the decomposition takes place, when the animals they die, and they are acted by the decomposers, by bacteria and by fungi, the carbon dioxide is returned to the environment along with other nutrients. So in this way, and then this carbon dioxide, either it is released through the process of decomposition or through the process of combustion or through respiration, etc. Whole of the carbon dioxide is absorbed and is taken back by the green plants, and in this way the carbon cycle continues. Now last one, the nitrogen cycle. This diagram explains the nitrogen cycle. For example, I will start from lightning process. When lightning takes place, which is a very common phenomena in nature, when the rain takes place, and during rain, and when the clouds, the different clouds, when they collide together and they strike together, so the different charges, the positive and negative charges, when they strike together, so the lightning is produced. A large amount of electrical energy is produced, and this electrical energy, when it passes through the air, so remember that in the air there are two gases, nitrogen and oxygen. Most of the component of the air is nitrogen and oxygen, 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. Now this nitrogen and oxygen will react together through lightning process, and it will form nitrogen oxide, NO or NO2. And when this NO or NO2 oxides of nitrogen, they dissolve along with rain, because along with lightning the rain is also taking place. Now this water will contain nitric acid, and this nitric acid, when it will fall in soil, so it will turn into nitrates, and in this way the nitrogen will become the part of the environment by forming either nitrates, or there are certain bacteria which are nitrogen fixing bacteria. They are converting directly the nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen, into nitrates, into ammonium ions and into nitrates. These are nitrogen fixing bacteria. And there are bacteria which are converting the ammonium ions into nitrites and then into nitrates. In this way, this is nitrogen cycle. It becomes a part of nitrogen cycle. However, there are certain bacteria which are wasting the nitrates, and they are taking part in a wasteful process. For example, this process is called denitrification. When the useful nitrates are converted back into nitrogen, and it is wasted in the environment, this is called denitrification. So one is nitrogen fixation, when atmospheric nitrogen becomes a part of the soil in the form of nitrates. The other is through lightning, the oxides of nitrogen are formed, and then they become nitric acid, and when nitric acid along with the rain, it falls on the ground, so it forms ammonium ions or nitrates through nitrogen, through nitrifying bacteria, and in this way the nitrogen cycle continues. And when the plants absorb nitrates these nitrates are absorbed by the plants. Now they become plant proteins. Now the nitrogen becomes the part of the plant body in the form of proteins. Now protein is containing nitrogen, and when these plants are eaten by animals, so the nitrogen becomes a part of animal's body by either herbivores or carnivores, etc. So the nitrogen keeps on transferring from one trophic level to the next, from one organism to the next, and ultimately through decomposition, all of the nitrogen once again is released in the form of ammonia back to the environment, or it is turned into nitrates, or it is turned into ammonia mines. So this is nitrogen cycle. I hope you understood today's lecture. Thank you very much.